And we're back. Oh, wait. Not all of us are back. I'm sorry. I bad host. I should have checked that you were ready to be back.
No, you did. And then she left the second that started.
Yep. I absolutely wandered off.
There was a potential Lolo situation because the door is closed and she's on the other side of it. So
very good. So there might have been a dog bomb, but by dog bomb we mean a door dog situation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I might have to get her. She might insist on being gotten.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so we are back and we are talking about Talia Hibbert's Take a Hint, Dani Brown for the second time for our podcast because now we have guests.
Yeah, we have spousal guests.
I'm a
guest.
You're a guest.
You're a
people who are legally required to be on our podcast.
Was that the fine print?
Yeah. I put it in our vows.
Oh, okay.
I was there. I don't remember that. But
yeah. Wait, was that the silent part of the vows?
It was in this part where I just looked.
I mean, there was a ginger child that was running around, so I don't remember much because I was chasing him. But
he was not running.
I know. I remember.
He was not running.
I know. He was unconscious. He was 6 months old.
He was also not capable of running yet.
No, I know.
Just crawling and terrifying people.
Just can't have. Come on, give me.
No breaks. No breaks given.
No breaks. Okay. No breaks.
All right.
This transition will be rougher than most. So we're just gonna do it.
Yeah, will.
So okay. Is this a high five? Wait. There we go. Sorry. I'm always terrible at the sides of the camera. Okay. So in this book, there's some laugh out loud sex scenes. At least I laughed out loud when I read them. How do you feel about... I'm sorry, I have to pause. What is happening?
No earthly clue.
I don't know. She kept turning and looking at me as soon as you started talking, so I returned the favor. And excellent. I don't know why this is happening.
Oh, I see. So there are some...
It's Talia Hibbert's fault.
Very good. There are some sex scene shenanigans. There are multiple sex scenes shenanigans. How do you feel about laugh out loud sex scenes? Are they better or worse?
They don't help with the fact that I'm not a huge romance fan to begin with. And they're funny and that's great. I guess again it goes back to I don't know what I was expecting.
They broke a table.
They did, and that was pretty damn funny. I don't know that. I don't know that I necessarily needed it.
He fell into her vagina. That's still one of the greatest things I've ever read.
Face first.
I mean, that is the only way to fall into someone's vagina in case people are confused. Please, face first. Yes, hard yes.
Is it?
Like off a diving board?
Yeah.
Face
just
first.
Don't put your arms out. Just arms dead at your side.
Yeah, you do have to like...
belly flop into the vagina. Please do not take diving or... it would seem sex advice for many of us.
If you do, stretch first.
Sure.
Absolutely. You don't want to pull a hammy.
And you gotta wait 30 minutes after eating.
You do not want to dive into anything if you've eaten within 30 minutes.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Yeah, totally. Cramps it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
See, but this is what I mean. This is funny and also sexy. So I vote yes on funny sex scenes.
Yeah, I think there's a time and a place and a book for them. Like not all books are about, some require very serious, long eye contact fucking. And some don't. Some require breaking things or costumes.
I'm a fan of a fun, happy sex scene. I think that's cool.
Yeah. I think sometimes you just need to remember to do math. That's really the important part. Right?
That was maybe the wrong time to take a drink.
No, that was the perfect time to take a drink, and I was this close to getting it to come out of our nose.
I'm sorry, are we sharing this publicly now?
I think it's the funniest damn thing I've ever experienced in my life, and I was the one that had to do the math problem.
Amazing. Okay.
So, personal story. For reasons that I no longer remember clearly.
Because
I wanted to see if we could do it.
Yes.
I wanted to see if we could maintain speed and friction while doing math. And so...
Second date, mind you.
I'm a weird one, okay? So, mid-coitus, I started asking him to do first simple and then complex math
in the middle
problems.
of it. What's 6 times 7? What?
It was the greatest laugh of my life.
I really think the answer a lot of the time was, huh? What?
Now, did you then have to ask her math questions?
I couldn't think of a math question. I could barely think of the
answer.
I would have answered.
She would have answered.
This is the greatest story I've ever heard.
You haven't told her that?
No, it hasn't come up that I've math quizzed you on our second encounter as naked people.
I've got a funny sex story.
Thank you.
This happened to a friend of mine who I will not mention their name. But
thank you.
This is a little bit of a story, so I'll try to make it fast. We were working on a show that had a really long install period, and it took a lot of time. And so myself and my cohort were not shaving because there was just no time. And a person on our crew said, "Oh man, I really wish I could grow a beard, but my girlfriend doesn't want me to grow one. She just says no." And I said, "Okay, well, Pavlov's dog her." So like when you're having a romantic moment, time it just right and say beard. And then do that enough times. And then one morning
during orgasm.
Yeah.
We can talk about
this is not how I tell the story though, and I've got my way of telling the story.
I'm so sorry.
So then if one morning you can say, "Hey, what would you think if I grew a beard?" Not only would she probably say yes, she might just have an orgasm right there on the spot, which would be great. So then we all laughed at that silly story, and my friend who was also growing a beard told his wife. And so the next time he came to work the following Monday after a weekend off, and he was clean shaven. And I was like, "Hey, what's up, man? I thought we were too busy to shave." And he said, "Well, we were having a romantic moment, and just at the right time, she pulled me in close and whispered clean shaven. So I shaved." So I love it. I think that's the best. And I think fun, happy, joyful sex is great. It doesn't always have to be serious. Come on.
6 times 8 is 48. Not
said 6 times 7.
Yeah.
That's 42.
Yeah, I'll remember that for the rest of my life.
Oh, that's how I should learn my 6, 7, and 8 multiplication. I'm real dodgy on those. That's how it needs to work. Okay.
But you have to say that has never happened to you.
Nope.
See, I like to be memorable.
Yep. No, it was memorable. 42.
So memorable. You put a ring on
42.
it.
Exactly.
The answer to the universe and everything is 42.
The answer to the great question is 42. What's the question?
Yeah.
And also orgasms.
What
the
is 6
answer is
times 9?
orgasms. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's where I went.
In the book, they're trying to figure out what the question is, and they're drawing random Scrabble tiles out of the bag.
That may have to be on another podcast for y'all.
I mean,
So,
yeah, we
yeah.
we would
Yeah.
need to do one about Douglas Adams's maybe entire book series.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right. Okay. So, Dani asks for Zaf from the goddess. She wants the perfect man. Do you believe in the power of intention? If you put it out there, you get it back.
okay.
Do you
So
believe it? Do you
no-
believe in magic?
I do
Any
believe in
of your
magic,
stars?
but I don't know that I believe in like positive affirmations and intentions and saying it to the universe because I am a cynic and it is a sad place I live in. It's grays and dark grays and some ultra grays.
I don't believe in it in myself, but I know people who believe in it. You know, the putting it out in the universe, and there's enough that is something that they believe in, and it works for them. And for those people, I'm really happy because they have something. For myself, I'm kind of, unfortunately with you, I have a lot of grays and infragrays and
infragrays.
yeah.
Sorry, this is a
Ooh,
dog.
infragrays.
Oh yeah,
Infragray.
it's a dog color joke. Dog see gray, infragray.
Sure.
Mm.
Excellent.
I do, but not in the way that the question suggests. So the power of intention and stuff like that makes it sound like it's some kind of magic trick. But I do think that
Okay.
that thoughts are things, and if you are focused on something, you tend to see more of that in the world. So you focus on red cars. Every time I see a red car, I get a point, and then all of a sudden you see red cars everywhere, right? It's not that there are more red cars. It's
Just
that
you
that's
notice
what you're. Yeah, that's the sort of mental filter that you're putting in, right? And so I think there's a lot of power in taking a moment to think about what it is that you actually want and directing your thoughts in that way to help drive your what's the word I'm looking for?
Motivation.
Yeah, drive your motivation that way, right? To keep yourself moving toward that goal and becoming more goal oriented. And I also think that there's power in, once you have that notion of what you want, telling other people what you want, right? Like I'm a strong proponent. Yes, I'm a strong proponent of telling your boss what your goals are at that job. Having been in management roles and having been in positions where I've led crews and I've had teams of people working for me, if somebody comes up to me and says my ultimate goal is to do this task or to have this job, I'm more likely to give those jobs to that person because I know their enthusiasm is going to be there. I know that they're going to be driven. They're going to come into it with a little bit of knowledge already just because they're interested. And so that person isn't casting a magic spell by telling me that, but they are putting their intention out there for me to understand and be on the same page as them and be able to help them get there. So in that regard, yes, I do believe in the power of intention.
But by that definition, Dani doesn't. She puts it out there and then she ignores it when it carries her out of the building.
Yeah.
I kind of feel that Dani puts something into higher power that she doesn't want to admit that she puts any faith into. Several times she talks about the goddess, yet at the same time she also discounts religion many times.
Yeah. And also ignoring the gift from the goddess when it carries her out of the building, that to me is more of it's less about denying the power of intention and more about not wanting to be vulnerable. Dani had a big problem with appearing vulnerable and feeling like romance makes her weak.
Yes.
Which is a whole other thing. And so it wasn't that she was actively, choosing to ignore or choosing to pay attention to what was happening in her life. It was that she was very aware of how publicly she appeared.
Yeah, what
or how she appeared publicly.
What her public persona was.
Yeah.
Interesting. I like if a friend's like, "Hey, I have a job interview. Will you put some good vibes out there?" I do it. It doesn't affect me one way or the other, and if that person feels my good vibes or believes in those things, then that's I've done the thing.
Mhm.
So it's a thing where other people believe it, and I see the power of that positivity, and so I'm happy to roll with that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Finrogin.
Finrogin.
Yeah,
That's me.
it is.
Okay. My question. Traditional gender roles in this are somewhat swapped. So you've got Zephyr, who is reading romance novels. He is a romantic at heart. He is
He works with children.
working with kids. He's emotionally very attuned. He's taking on more of what I guess traditionally would be the feminine role. And Dani is super work focused. She's pretty out of touch with her emotional state most of the time. She wants to stand on her own 2 feet and do everything on her own, and be this pillar of solitude, right? Which is traditionally more of a masculine type of role. So I guess, do you think this book is as successful if Zephyr is the business-driven character and Dani is the more timid one? Yes.
Say it with me. Gender is a social construct and can go fuck itself.
Sure. No, I totally agree.
One of the 2 main characters is doing a thing, and the other one of the 2 characters is doing a different thing. And the story is about how when they work together, they're better at it. Does it matter that he has a penis and uses it in a penile way, and she has a vagina and she chooses to use it in a vaginal way? No! Fuck that noise!
Okay. So you're saying that it's the same story even if Dani is...
I think it would not be perceived the same way because the gender as a social construct has been with us for many, many years, and there is a particularly in the Judeo-Christian countries, there is a precedent for men do things, women do things. Mm-hmm. So no, I think if we read it with the inverse of their gender roles back to the traditional format, it would be a very boring and possibly very mass market kind of novel that we would maybe not enjoy as much. But ultimately, I would love to live in the world where this is not a conversation we're having. Is the dream? And this is the intention I'm putting out into the world.
You're doing it, Peter. It's yeah.
So, in the scope of, the fact that as Americans we look at things in one way, and this was written by a British author, is this a question of male female, or is this a question of this is how it actually is more in the UK and America? I mean, I would no jingoism. That's jingoism.
I don't know. I mean, I
for Americans,
yeah,
it's hard for us.
Hard telling.
I don't have. Yeah.
And we also have not really talked at all about the fact that Zephyr is Muslim and Dani believes in the goddess and follows,
practices Santeria.
Right. Yes. And so there's that aspect of it. She's also a Black woman in England from a very affluent family. So that probably builds into the world that she lives in and the ways that she's expected to behave, or the way that she breaks that construct. And the same is true for him, right? One of the big things is that there's he's very close with his mother, and he has a really great relationship with his sister-in-law. And there's all of this stuff that maybe isn't traditionally what has been put into the media about Muslim men, but is true of Zaf, and that is just what it is. I don't know. I absolutely hear your question, and the thing that saddens me is that your question is valid, and we live in a world where your question is valid.
But what I've recognized over this year of reading romance novels almost exclusively is that they feel like they're on the forefront. They're the vanguard of changing minds, and little bits at a time. They're taking small steps. I mean, romance is the most widely bought genre of books in the world. And so that means like millions upon millions of readers, there are people having their minds changed slowly but surely in little bits at little times, because in romance, there's something for everybody. And if you're open to the opportunities of seeing a different perspective, like this book is someone's little step.
Mm-hmm.
It's someone seeing a person of color from an affluent family. It's seeing a woman in a PhD role. It's seeing a man who can be emotionally available. It's seeing a positive sexual relationship. This is the first time I've ever read a book where a character practices Santeria. So like it was an experience for me in a little way.
Yeah. I think that's really a good observation.
Thank you.
Because the thing that got to me is you don't have many many characters like Zaf to look at in stories, right? Like that's not a very common character type. Someone who is outwardly very tough and masculine, played a tough sport, really physically aggressive, that kind of thing, and then is also in tune with their emotions and able to have healthy relationships with people without being sarcastic or degrading or machismo or whatever you want to say, right? And so I think the fact that the gender roles here are flipped in that way is what makes this book kind of strong, in my opinion, is because we get to see there's like a role model here that people can point to and say, no, this is how to model behavior as a man, right? Instead of, the sort of classic role models that young men have to look up to, who are like strong and aggressive and cocksure and always know what they're doing and always have the answer and they know what you need better than you do and all that kind of thing. Zaf is not that, but still is able to fill that masculine space. So I thought that was a very cool example to put out there.
To quote my favorite tote bag, cinnamon rolls, not gender rolls.
The clit of the cinnamon roll.
So sorry, the clit of the cinnamon roll, not the clit of the gender roll.
Yes.
Or, I mean, you do you.
And not to derail the conversation off the questions, but what is cocksure?
Just cocky.
Yeah.
Someone who's cocky. Someone who's
Okay.
like just can do no wrong in their own opinion. Always knows exactly what the right answer is, whether they do or not. That kind of thing.
Does it derive from like gunslinging? For some reason my etymology feels gunslinging.
Probably further
Ooh.
back than that.
Sure.
Do you guys
I
need to
don't
be off
know.
screen because you just used really big words and there was an ooh?
No, I never thought about the etymology of it. Unless like you think, like I always like the first time I heard about it, the image that flashed into my head was like someone using like a divining rod to find water, except it was their dick. Someone cocksure, right? Always follow the dick.
I understand exactly what you mean.
Does it work like that? I feel like I should ask. Does that appendage work like a divining rod?
Well, it finds something that's wet.
Unless you put some kind of magnet in there, I don't know that you could find true north. It just kind of points wherever it wants.
Well, I mean, you can if you're laying outside and it's sunny. You know,
Oh, I'm sorry.
You
No,
might be
I
able to tell what time of day it is. Is that what
you'd
we're
at least
going
you'd be able to tell which way east and west were, so then you can find north from there.
and for more navigation advice, please join us
Starting a new blog. It's all about navigation
by Dick.
by Dick.
Sponsored by Dick.
Hey, babe, you want to touch my astrolab?
So I keep thinking of this in
Ayo.
terms of like navigating a ship by the sea, and I know that the coxswain is one of those roles on a ship, and so
Mhm.
your podcast should be the cocksure coxswain.
Hey, stealing it.
I feel like that needs to be one of your D&D characters.
Amazing.
Stealing
Done.
it.
Excellent.
All right.
Shall we talk about compelling or favorite moments from the book?
Yeah, I feel like we must.
Probably.
it is the trope around here. We do talk about our favorite moments in the book.
Absolutely.
Would you like to start?
Oh, sure. Like Talia Hibbert writes a good line. She can write a really good one-liner. Faces were for sitting on, not for kissing, is Dani Brown's whole MO for most of the book. So like she's a treasure. She's a national treasure. Who's next?
So this is one of the books that I really liked the breaking moment in because they have a fight and then they talk about it and they talk through it and they behave in an adult way, in an adult situation, and it does not feel like I am suddenly reading a story about 12-year-old behavior that adults exhibit, which happens frequently in romance novels. I feel like it happens to heighten the tension of that moment so that will they, won't they is really a thing. I never had the will they, won't they with this book. I felt like I knew they were going to work out. It was just a matter of how and what the compromise would be. But that didn't make me want to read this book any less. So I loved that this actually had adults doing adult things because I'm an adult reading an adult thing, and it felt like an appropriate balance of that. And then as a shout out, falling into her vagina, that entire scene is everything. It was I talk about it all the time.
Let's see. For me, it's the panic attack outside of the BBC studios. Because
yes,
I've had that kind of panic attack to where you feel that, so it was kind of interesting to see that written and read back exactly what I experienced.
Cool.
That's awesome.
I really attached to Zephyr's after school club. He teaches rugby and how to connect with your emotions to middle school and high school boys. So they come and they learn rugby from a professional rugby player, and he focuses a lot of his time and energy on getting them to communicate about and to stay in touch with their emotional state so that they don't lose their mind in rage and testosterone. To give them the tools to navigate that. I think that's wonderful, and I really dig that. Again, that kind of plays back into the showing us in this story things that are that sort of break that masculine trope but are still masculine after they're all said and done. So it's cool.
Okay.
Awkward silence.
Sorry, I was like, wait, have all of us done the thing? It feels you and I talking about it feels a little bit like a deja vu. So I was like, wait, did you and I say this once or twice?
Right.
So the next question we ask is, does this book make you want to get naked? So going back to the question that Ford asked at the beginning of this episode, were the sex scenes arousing, essentially? And for me, the answer is yes, because as we've heard, I love a good laugh in a sex scene or in a sexual situation. And it was hilarious, but also very well written and just the right amount of explicit.
Yeah. I agree. Like, it's not the hottest thing I've ever read, but like a definite yes. It wasn't leaving me wanting more.
I would go with maybe, but not really. It has. I mean, honestly, I think it has less to do with anything more than I was so focused on the story that the actual sex that interrupted it was kind of counter to the story. I wanted to know more about Saf. It's interesting.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. Where like the sex scenes came up, and I was like, "Oh, right, romance novel. Okay,
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
yeah. So the descriptions of the sex scenes were fine, but I was so in my head about everything else that was going on, and like getting pissed off at Dani and being like, just fucking relax for once in your life and enjoy the ride, I guess. And getting really frustrated with that, and frustrated with him for being like, oh yeah, okay, I'll just leave and swallow all of my thoughts and get the fuck out. And it was like, what the hell? So yeah, I'm right there with you, where like the sex scenes were good, but they didn't like turn me on really.
Yeah. I mean, give a male 20 odd seconds and he'll find something to get turned on about, an avocado
Yeah.
or something. But
Whoa, no. You can't just make that noise in my ear after a man says avocado.
Okay, I have a
Sorry, you had
question.
your finger up. Yes.
I did. That means I have a thought, but I don't want to interrupt with your whole sentence. So what you said was there was a sex scene, but I was expecting it because it's a romance novel. So my question is, because there are plenty of genre that include sex scenes in their genre, but the plot isn't driven by the sex scenes, or the plot's primary focus isn't the romance. Are those sex scenes integral to the stories of those books, or do you also skim over them because they are also just like flotsam on your way to the rest of the story?
So I never skimmed over them, right? Like I see the value in having them in the story. It just didn't rev me up, I guess.
That's fine. That isn't necessarily the case. Yeah. One of the things that we talk about on the podcast, because you listen to all of them, is the fact that explicitly written sex scenes in romance novels provide a way of validating what might be happening in people's lives in their actual real lives. And so it gives people a way to express what they need, or to read something that they've never done before and feel comfortable asking for it. Which is why I feel that all sex scenes should be explicit, because that it gives the words to people who may not have those words on their own for what they need and want. But I can think of a bunch of books that are not romance novels, air quotes, in the traditional sense, but definitely have explicit sex scenes in them.
I can think of zero.
Okay. Do you want me to? Okay. James Patterson's series, the Alex Cross series, he has sex in a bunch of the books, and it goes into explicit details for that. Sorry. What's over there?
I pointed to a James Patterson novel called Sacking the Quarterback.
Yeah, no, we're going there later. We're going there without you guys. Well, you're welcome to join, actually, but I don't know if you need to.
I'm guessing I've got the synopsis of what the story is about.
Yeah. You.
It's pretty much, yeah.
Ford is gonna explain to me what the technical elements of that particular move are. Is where we're landed on. Yes.
Is the move sack?
Yeah, she doesn't know
Okay.
sports ball.
Got it.
So I'm gonna
No
explain
sports ball for me.
balling to
Yeah.
her.
Got it.
Yeah.
Understood. Okay.
Join us for an episode not today where that's actually gonna happen. I'm gonna read a sports romance and Ford is gonna explain to me all the weird words I don't understand.
Nice.
But no, so James Patterson's Alex Cross series has quite a significant amount of explicit sex, both positive and very negative, because it deals with serial killers. Gentlemen Bastards, which we've at least 3 of the 4 of us have read. There are definitely explicit sexual content in that, and then some like torture porn is what I'm gonna call it, like really explicit torture that is like really intensely torturous. It's not sexually explicit. There's just torture. In case you don't know about Gentlemen Bastards, there's a lot of blood. There's a lot of like extenuating circumstances for that. Oh my gosh. Name of the Wind. There's like an entire section of the book where he goes to the Fae land and just sexes it up for 70 pages. So I can
blocked that book out of my memory.
What? It was so good.
No.
Oh no. There's a bunch of sci-fi that I can bring into the mix. I can go on and on, but my point is that sexual content exists in other stories that are not necessarily romance stories to begin with, but it is just part of the storytelling. And I feel like we may label, like we might get to a sex scene in a romance novel and be like, of course there's sex scenes because it's a romance novel. But then we get to a sex scene in a book that's been labeled fiction or thriller and be like, oh, this is interesting and I'm going to keep reading it. And my heart rate is going to go up because it's a thriller and all bits of that thriller are meant to do that for me. I wonder how much of it is psychosomatic, like how much of it is because the book is labeled romance and there's maybe a bodice on the cover of it and a half naked Fabio.
Are we going to bodice rippers already?
I mean, but my point is that you would not you personally, but you, the general public, may not take a sex scene in a bodice ripper as seriously as you would in an Alex Cross novel.
Well, I mean, sure.
Right? But that doesn't, my point is that the sex scenes are the same. The legitimacy of those scenes and the way they're written might be really similar, but we assign different meanings to them.
Sure.
Yeah. I just want to clarify. I don't think that the sex scenes in this book were irrelevant. I think that they were used to show, to highlight problems that each of them was having, and to introduce us to their inner monologue in a lot of different moments and stuff. So I don't want to give the impression that I blew past them or I don't want to give the impression that I glossed over them or
sorry, I just got to blew past them. That was really slow. I'm so sorry.
It's late. It's way past my bedtime.
It's very late.
So you're very sleepy.
Yeah, my comment earlier was just that they didn't get me in the mood. They didn't make me want to get naked.
They weren't titillating.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I acknowledge the use of them, and they were well written, and they held my interest for sure. Yeah.
Perhaps too personal, so you can pass on this question. Have you ever been titillated by a sex scene in a book?
Yes.
Ooh. Care to share?
Sure. So there's a book called, it's been a very long time.
The D&D 5e Player's Guide.
The Monster Manual. No.
Those beholders, man, you just watch out for them.
The guy who wrote The Last Unicorn wrote another book called The Innkeeper's Song, I want to say. And it's this sort of fantasy adventure, and there's a 3-way sex scene that happens in the middle of it.
50% mark.
And I was 14.
Oh,
So
formative.
that
I'll do it.
that did it. And I was just like, I turned a page and then I was like, what? And then I had to like go be by myself, because even just reading it in a room with other people felt incorrect.
That's why we mark some of our things not safe for work or safe for work.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't want to read those things in public.
Not sure that I've had the same experience.
He has not read all the manuals.
You didn't read
yet.
the Innkeeper's Song when you were 14?
No, but I read the Dungeon Master's Guide, so I mean that's enough.
Yeah, okay, all right, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty arousing. Amazing. All right. Are we to our wrap-up questions?
We sort of are, yes.
More questions.
There are more questions, and they're purely for you two, because they are gendered a little bit, or partnered a little bit. I know gender is a construct, but I'm gonna ask it anyways.
You gotta beep yourself out.
You just made yourself more work.
The beeps are the funniest.
Beeps are the funniest.
Okay, so re-racking to the top of this question, since we're gonna need to. There is a theory out there that men are uncomfortable with women reading romance because romance gives women an unfair expectation of what men should be like. Do you?
I'm so sorry. Your spouse is doing math.
Yeah.
It's still 42.
Not on the podcast. Not on the podcast, Adam.
Okay. I'm trying to connect all that. Yeah.
Right. Right. So women read romance in which men can sustain their erections for an extended period of time, understand how to take care of their women,
can carry them upstairs.
Can carry them upstairs, can break tables while mid coitus, whatever it might be, can provide for them while mid coitus. That's really the important bit, because I would stop to find out if the table is okay. But
I think the closest thing we have at our house is a ladder. Do you want me to?
No.
Right. No. So do you agree that women who read romance are susceptible to unfair expectations of what men can deliver to their house?
Oh my god. I mean,
to their house.
Here's
to their house, yes.
If there's anyone out there who thinks like that, if there's a man out there who thinks my woman shouldn't be reading romance because I can't, I don't know, swing a dick around like those guys can, does the inverse happen to you when you watch porn and there's all this weird, crazy shit happening online and you're getting into it? No, of course not. Like, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
That's a real concern. This is a real thing that actually happens in the world.
Men are really fragile, though, so I guess that's what the fuck that is. I don't know. That's bullshit. It's like people getting upset when their wife makes more money than them. Who cares? Fucking enjoy it. Enjoy it. Let them read the romance book. I'm so sorry, Adam. I'm on a roll. Read the romance book. Get fired up, and then let's bang it out. That's awesome. What?
I'm going to counter
if that's
with
you're missing out.
You come from the same kind of background that I do. You have the Midwestern side. I've got the Southern side. Yes, there are people that have this problem. They all live in the South. When
sorry.
I'm not. When Bobby comes home and Betty Sue has read 15 romance novels, and it's a problem. And then, Betty Sue walks in and sees Bobby whacking it to, whatever porn it is. Yeah, it's a problem. I would say that, is this a problem for, me personally? No. Absolutely not. Is this a problem for the male fragile ego at large? Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Maybe it's because romance novels hold men to a standard of decency.
A standard, not even a higher standard, a standard.
There's some romance novels out there, and they cater to all types.
Mhm.
There are a lot that we don't read, but like there's a basic decency standard out there.
It makes me think, if that is somewhere that you feel insecure, then there's probably a reason why you feel insecure about that.
Sure.
If you are in a relationship and you feel like you need to strong arm your partner to stay with you, that's a problem. And it's not the romance novel's fault. If the romance novel reminds a reader that there's better shit out there, and they are so moved by that novel to go try it, it's probably because you're bad at pleasing them in whatever way. Sexually, maybe it's just you don't
Emotionally.
listen to them when they talk to you. Maybe it's they have expressed a desire or a dislike and you keep steamrolling ahead. Like, you fucking check out your own shit and be honest with
Yes.
yourself and like fix
100%.
it.
Yes, 100%.
Oh, I'm so mad about it.
Sorry, and this is a real thing, and it is very confusing to me as well, because I'm just like, it's just fiction, you guys. It's like right next to Harry Potter, or pick a different.
Not next.
It's
but-
more next to Twilight, I think.
Ooh, true
Ugh.
story there. And there are people who are really into that as well. So, enjoy your vampire fantasy.
Yeah.
Okay, so slightly rough segue, which is my favorite kind of segue.
That's what she said.
That is exactly what she said. Yeah. So we've been doing Booklandia for over a year now, which is holy cow, all by itself.
Yeah.
Has it affected your lives in any way to have us be us,
Well,
essentially?
that means that I don't have the basement on Thursdays.
Truth.
I think, I mean, there are some ways that it very obviously affects me. I edit the show, so it takes a certain amount of time commitment to do that. But then I think the more important question, I think what you're getting at, is, have I noticed a change in Ford and in you over the course of that year? And I think yes, especially when you consider that we're coming out of we're still in a pandemic. And this started after we had been in the pandemic for 8 months, something like that, 7 or 8 months. And so there was a lot of like, how do we do this now? How do we live our life behind a screen and not connected to our friends in the ways that we normally were, and things like that? And so I noticed a big change because it rekindled a connection that I think, at least what I noticed from Ford, was really needed. Because that time was really difficult, and having an activity to participate in, having like regular meetings with a friend, ride or die, as we've learned. Having regular meetings with that, I think, was a huge improvement just mentally, to be able to, pull ourselves out of the monotony of constantly every day sitting down at a table, looking at a computer screen, and not talking to anybody. So it's been great.
There's definitely been I would have to say that in much like what was just said, the one thing that I've really noticed is that it's something that, and I think I've said this before, it's something that you've enjoyed, it's something you've enjoyed doing, and it gives you an outlet for something you enjoy. But the biggest thing is that you have someone else who's saying, "How you doing? and because you have someone else saying how you doing, it makes me happy because it's something you were able to so another contact you're able to make in a dark time, really.
Oh, you guys.
True.
And also, now you expect me to put up with a whole bunch or do a whole bunch more crazy sex stuff you've been reading in your crazy romance novels. And really, that's awesome.
Yes, just to clarify, though we might have been in isolation, we were not under a rock. We just happened to find ourselves
Sure.
under the same rock, which was very convenient.
Yeah.
For me, the biggest bit of Booklandia that is really fascinating is that I have not read romance novels extensively prior to this, and so this entire world and this entire community is brand new to me. And
Really?
this is like I've learned a massive amount about the community at large and how supportive it is and how much they show up for each other and how much discourse is in it and how much diversity is in this community that is maybe being pushed to the sides of other published communities, that is very available and very open in the romance community. So that's been the biggest discovery for me in Booklandia, is that every time we read a new romance novel that's still in the genre and is a completely different subset of people, a completely different adventure, I'm like, oh, I have never been on this adventure. It was it was shelved in the same portion of the bookstore, but it is taking me on a whole new journey, and it is very exciting to discover. And having not ever been shy about the reading of or discussion of sex, the explicitness of it doesn't scare me out of the story. But we've also read some very chaste romance that has been about very orthodox communities, and that has also been really thoughtful and meaningful. So I feel like you know that moment in Beauty and the Beast when she sees the library for the first time, and this is what I feel like this ginormous library has been presented to me, and I need you all to leave because I need to read every book in this library. You can stay, but I might not engage with you because the library is the hot part.
I agree to everything said. I have noticed I came into this self-describing as prudish and not having been raised in a world that talked about sex. And so this has been exposure therapy for me in a lot of ways. And in doing that, it has made me more confident to talk about other things or just to speak more confidently out in my life and out in the world. But also I now see romance everywhere. We were doing scene work this week and I was like, so his mother and father left him with his grandmother. Is their relationship on the rocks and they're going to go have a retreat? Like, I see a romance trope in every story, even a musical for children.
There's
Nice.
only one bed in a hotel room a lot of the time, which is weird because even when I'm checking into a hotel room and I'm the only person checking in, I always get the one with the double beds. So I don't know what that says. Maybe they save all of the rooms with the single bed for people who appear to be a couple.
Sure.
And so they give the double beds to me.
Maybe they're like, oh, she needs one for her suitcase.
I always use it for my suitcase, but I've always, whenever I'm alone in a hotel room, I always end up in the room with the double beds.
I'm gonna pay attention next time I'm on tour. That's a good idea. Yeah. Should we awkwardly wrap this up? Okay,
yeah,
great.
that is what this sign is for, because we were going to discuss a sign at some point and we never did. Guys, we are not good at this part.
So thank you for being with us. We have one more episode this season where we're gonna talk about this year and the books, our favorite books and our least favorite books, and just wrap wrap this whole year up and hop into 2022.
Bookended.
We're gonna
Bookended.
bookend it.
I have to say, I
We're gonna
started.
shelve this season.
Ooh, I started scripting for that, and I have changed my answers quite a few times now, and a lot of the categories.
Excellent.
Because I'm like, it's this. I'm like, oh no, wait, it's this. Yeah. So
Ooh.
come to that
So
episode
come see where Sky lands. Yeah.
to see me be very confused, because turns out we've read some really excellent stuff. Really,
it's gonna
really
be a really
excellent
tough year.
stuff. So and then maybe tell us your favorites for the year.
Yes. If you like this episode and you liked hearing these goobers talk about romance novels, tell us and we'll force them to read another romance novel. Let's make this a regular thing? Question mark?
All right, my criteria are more sex scenes than just the 3,
Okay.
and hotter, I guess.
So we got to get erotica.
Immediately
Yeah.
hand him Neon Gods, and then I will
was wondering,
see you
yeah.
on the other side of Neon Gods. Oh my! Well, start maybe with Krampus, but Neon Gods. I have been handing that book to everyone who needs like a sex scene per page situation. Neon Gods.
You just said Krampus?
What's his name?
Krampus.
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 It's now Krampus.
I mean, so back to
gets
that
down.
show that I'm talking about doing. So, right, navigating. Just saying,
Yes.
I need a
I'm
Krampus.
sorry. I'm sorry. Is it
Where's my
Krampus?
Krampus?
Krampus like a cramp? Oh, we've
Yes.
derailed. Krampus like a cramp. Okay.
Yes.
Not Krampus like a scary thing?
Like
All
a
right.
dance?
Thanks for
Krampus?
joining us, everybody.
Oh.
So are you, dear audience human, gonna pick up this book now that you've heard our review? Let us know in the comments. Have a suggestion for another review? Slide on into our DMs.
If you like this adventure in books or updates on our upcoming projects, please follow, like, save, subscribe, rate, review us on Instagram at l.skyford, on Twitch at lskyford, and on Twitter at skyfordl. Phew. I'm Sky.
And I'm Ford. That's it for this episode. We will see you next time on Booklandia, where every book is a whole world to explore. And we're out.